I think this is the most significant financial crisis in the post-war period.
There are fears the sell-off will continue on Wall Street.
Soaring gas prices, falling home prices, and rising unemployment.
2008 was a bad dream.
Nearly 250,000 homeowners are in danger of losing their homes.
The bankers made irresponsible loans to homeowners, permitted them to buy property on margin. Then the housing prices collapsed, the mortgages couldn't be paid, and the banks essentially became insolvent.
The 2008 housing crash was a really scary time. And if you don't remember it firsthand, chances are you have heard about the housing crash. It's all over the place right now because of home prices being as high as they are, interest rates being as high as they are. People keep talking about a crash is coming. It can't be sustained, all of that. So today I want to talk a little bit more about what happened in the 2008 housing crash and some of the major factors that cause that, but also the real fear people have right now, which is, what if I buy a house and the market crashes right after I buy the house? Well, I'm going to talk about that as well and give you some education and food for thought. Let's take a minute and talk a little bit about what can cause the housing market to crash or that bubble to burst, as you often hear. And I am not an economist. I am not a financial analyst or some economist wizard. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview, just touch on the subject about some of the reasons that go into a housing crash. Recession, people start losing their jobs and they can't make their mortgage payments and they need to sell their house. That's one of the biggest reasons. And that comes down to excessive supply of homes on the market. And back in 2008, it was not uncommon to see houses sitting for 6, 7, 8, 9 months or more during that crash. Now, excessive home supply can also be because builders have built too much. Now, that's not really a problem we're seeing right now in Utah. I'm not saying it couldn't come. I'm just saying at this point in time, builders have slowed down on building a little bit. So we're not quite seeing that as a problem yet. The other thing that we do see here in Utah is home prices are steadily increasing and wages are not keeping up with it. So it makes homes unaffordable for people to purchase. And that would go back to if they can't buy a home because it's too expensive and their wages aren't keeping up with the home prices, we have an excess of homes on the market. And then what we saw in 2008 was lenders lending on things that they had no business giving people the loans that they were giving, to be quite frank. But the other thing is the market was hot in 2006 and 2007, and people were doing whatever they could to get into a home and getting something called an ARM loan, an adjustable rate mortgage. And for this example, let's just say you got a 5-1 ARM. That means for 5 years, you were fixed at a certain interest rate. And then when that 5 years was up, your interest rate became adjustable. So if the rates were up, people couldn't afford their mortgage payments anymore after 5 years, and they were losing their homes as well. Now, after the 2008 collapse and that all kind of came out, people stayed away from ARMs. You don't really see them in 2025. So when some of those things happen that I just discussed, or a combination of those things, you're going to see more foreclosures hit the market and even short sales hitting the market as a result of job loss or, can't afford the mortgage for whatever reason, things like that. And to give you an idea, we have over 10,000 homes actively listing. And of those 10,300, only 61 of those are a special listing condition of being in foreclosure or a short sale. So not a huge problem that we're starting to see here in Utah. I hope you're enjoying the video so far today. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the like button on this video. That way I know you appreciate the content that I'm putting out. The thing about the housing market is it goes up and it goes down, just like the economy. It goes down and then it recovers and it goes up and and then it's just back and forth, right? So the same is true for the housing market. It's not meant to be a get rich quick scheme for real estate. And I'll give you an example. When I bought my house in 2002, I paid under $250 for my house, and 2006, 2007, my equity was great. 2008 hit, and I could no longer sell my house for what I could have in 2006 or 2007. I did not try to sell my house, so let's just say for this example, let's just say it peaked at like $350 back then. Well, after the crash in 2008, I couldn't have sold my house for $350 anymore. It may have been $300 or $275, let's just say. But now the market has slowly gained traction up until 2020. Then it really gained traction, but it kept going up. And now today that same home is worth $700,000+. So just know that if you buy today and the housing market crashes, if you plan on being in your home for 5 years, 7 years, you're going to be okay. You may lose some money or lose some equity, I should say, and I'm going to talk about that now. So what do I mean by losing equity? Let's just say, for argument's sake, you buy a house this month for $600,000. The market crashes and suddenly your house is only worth $500,000. You've lost $100,000 in equity. So losing equity or negative equity in your home is important, especially right now, because with the interest rates high and the home prices high, people were saying things like date the rate and marry the house. You can refinance later, things like that. But here's what you need to look at. If you lose equity and you have negative equity and then the interest rates drop, you will not be able to refi your home to a lower rate because the bank is not going to loan you money. If you got a $600,000 house and the bank now says it's worth $500,000, they're not going to refinance you for $600 when it's only worth $500. The same is true when you purchase the house. That's why they do appraisals, is to make sure the home is valued and the bank is protecting their investments. So if you're considering buying a house right now, I've never loved that advice of, refinance later. You want to make sure that you can afford the payment for the long haul. Now, if interest rates drop and you can refinance, that is great. That's a bonus for you. But if you're considering purchasing, make sure you can pay that payment for years on end and not a short term, hey, I can really stretch for the next 6 months, but after that, the rates better drop. Don't go into home ownership with that kind of attitude. That's going to be a recipe for disaster. The other concern with having negative equity in the market crashing after you buy is life changes, circumstances change. Maybe you do lose your job in a recession or your job relocates you out of state. It's going to make it very difficult for you to sell a house. And let's just say you're $50,000 short on your house. Can you come up with the $50,000 to make sure you get your house sold so you can move for your job? Most people can't do that. And that's especially true if you lose your job. You're not going to come up with $50,000 to cover your negative equity. So that brings me to short sales. And that's what we saw in 2008 was short sales and then led into foreclosures. So what is a short sale? When you have negative equity and you need to sell your home, you can apply to the bank to get approval for them to wash out that negative equity. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have to relocate and you have to sell your job, or you lose your job and you can't make the payments anymore, and you have found a buyer for your house, but they're only willing to pay $500,000, but you owe $550,000 on your loan. Well, if the bank approves you for a short sale, then they wash out that $50,000 and write that off, or whatever banks do. Now, the important thing to realize with that $50,000 $100,000 is that can be considered taxable income for you. So you need to talk to a CPA before you go down that short sale route with a lender to find out what tax implications you could potentially have. And the same is true for a foreclosure with possible tax implications. And I think this is obvious, but let's talk about your credit score. It's going to tank your credit score having to do a short sale or a foreclosure, having tons of late payments, things like that. So that's something else to be aware of. So what happens if you purchase a home and then the market crashes? Well, my first piece of advice is stay calm and learn what your options are and what you can or can't do. So what I hear a lot from my first-time home buyers that I work with is, hey, I'm going to buy this house and in 3 to 5 years, I plan on selling it and using the equity to move up and get into something more of what I want. And that 3 to 5 year plan may become a 7-year plan. You may have to stay put a little bit longer than you wanted or anticipated, but the market does go up and down, like I said, and it usually recovers. So you just have to ride that out. To give you an idea, Utah MLS just put out a statistic that in the fourth quarter of 2023 compared to the fourth quarter of 2024, home prices in Utah appreciated almost 5%. So on a $500,000 home in 1 year, your appreciation was close to $25,000 on average in Utah. Now, every house and every neighborhood is totally different, but that was what happened across Utah from 23 to 24. So the market does recover. It just slows down. Those aren't the appreciation prices we saw in 21 or 22, but it's still a good appreciation. If you find yourself in a position where you're struggling to make the mortgage payment, maybe you did lose your job or you have to relocate and maybe you can't rent out the property to ride that out, then your better option is to call the bank and try to get a loan modification on your mortgage versus doing a short sale or doing a foreclosure on the property. Now, again, every situation is different. I am not a financial advisor, but those are things that I would definitely look into before you make any decisions of which option is best for you. If you are looking at making a real estate move this year, maybe you're looking at buying your first home or you're needing to relocate for work, reach out to me. I'd love to connect with you. Shoot me a text or send me an email. That is the best way to reach me. But as always, make it a great day.